This is Constitutional Rights in Black and White.
It was 3 a.m. when Baltimore police stopped the Nissan Maxima for speeding. There were 3 men in the car. Dante Partlow was driving. It was his car. Joseph Pringle was sitting in the passenger seat. This case is about him. And Otis Smith was sitting in the back. Officer Jeffrey Snyder asked Partlow for his license and registration, and he ran Partlow's driving record. There were no violations. Snyder returned to the car, ordered Partlow to get out of the car, and gave him a warning. He then asked Partlow if there were any guns or drugs in the car. Partlow said no. Snyder then asked Partlow for his consent to search the car. Partlow said, "Go ahead." Snyder ordered everybody out of the vehicle. When the police searched it, they found $763 in cash in the glove compartment. And when they pulled down the armrest in the back seat, they found several small bags of cocaine. Snyder asked all 3 men who the cocaine belonged to. Nobody said anything. Snyder told them that if no one admitted to the drugs, he was going to arrest them all. No one said anything. And so the police arrested all 3 men and took them to the police station. After approximately 2 hours, Joseph Pringle confessed. He told the police that the money and the drugs were his. He was prosecuted for possession with intent to distribute cocaine. He was convicted, and he was sentenced to 10 years incarceration. Mr. Pringle's case went to the Supreme Court, where he argued that the police did not have enough evidence to arrest him that morning, just because they found drugs in a car that he happened to be in. Yes, they did, said the Supreme Court. The police had probable cause to arrest you when they found the drugs in the car. We think it an entirely reasonable inference from these facts that any or all 3 of the occupants had knowledge of and exercised dominion and control over the cocaine. But wait, said Mr. Pringle. Okay, not Mr. Pringle, but his lawyers on behalf of Mr. Pringle. This is guilt by association. I was just a passenger in that car. It wasn't my car. I wasn't driving it. I wasn't even sitting next to the drugs. The government can't just round up everyone on the scene of a crime. They need individuated evidence about the specific person before they can arrest someone. They didn't have that here. Yes, they did, said the Supreme Court. This wasn't just any crime scene. This was a car. A car passenger will often be engaged in a common enterprise with the driver. So it is fair to infer that everyone in that car might have been guilty, which means the police could arrest everyone, including you. Wow, said Mr. Pringle, that makes cars kind of tricky. So you're saying that every time you get into a car with your friends, you could be arrested for something that they put in the car that you had nothing to do with or that you didn't even know about? Basically, yeah, said the Supreme Court. Maryland versus Pringle is an especially important case because cars are so important. Police make over 20 million traffic stops every year. And whenever they do, they can order the occupants to get out of the car and ask for permission to search it if police find something. Because of Maryland versus Pringle, everybody in the car can be arrested. Okay, let's read the case. Maryland versus Pringle is about a broad question, what is probable cause? And a more specific question, whether police have probable cause to arrest everybody in a car when drugs are found in that car. Probable cause is the amount of evidence that police need to make an arrest, and Pringle establishes an important benchmark in probable cause doctrine. It also established an important rule about vehicles, which is that contraband found in vehicles can be attributed to anyone who happens to be in the car. The salient facts of the case are as follows. The car was stopped for speeding at 3 a.m. During the stop, the police obtained consent from the driver to search the car. During the search, the police found $763 in cash and 5 small baggies of cocaine. no one took responsibility for the drugs. The question is whether, taken together, all of this evidence amounts to probable cause to arrest Joseph Pringle, who was sitting in the passenger seat of the car. Notice that of all the people in the car, Pringle was arguably the least likely to own the drugs. It wasn't his car, and he wasn't driving. Dante Partlow was. He was not sitting next to the drugs in the back seat. Otis Smith was. The court concludes that the police did indeed have probable cause to arrest Pringle and everybody else. The holding creates a tension with the longstanding rule, contained in previous Supreme Court decisions, that requires particularized evidence with respect to the person to be searched or seized. In other words, it's not enough that police discover evidence of a crime someplace. There must be probable cause to believe that the specific person is guilty. Otherwise, as Pringle argued, people could be arrested merely on guilt by association. In order to explain why there was probable cause in this case, the court had to distinguish two of its main prior cases. Notice how important this process of distinguishing is. The Supreme Court can't just announce a new decision in a vacuum. It needs to reconcile that decision with all the decisions that it has made before and explain how it is being consistent. For example, in the case Ibarra versus Illinois, police had probable cause and a warrant to search a tavern and the bartender for heroin. While executing the warrant, they patted down Mr. Ibarra, who happened to be in the tavern at the time. The court held that this was impermissible because a person's mere propinquity to others independently suspected of criminal activity does not, without more, give rise to probable cause to search that person. As part of distinguishing Ibarra, the Pringle court explained that cars are not like taverns. It reasoned that a car passenger, unlike the unwitting tavern patron in Ibarra, will often be engaged in a common enterprise with the driver and have the same interest in concealing the fruit or evidence of their wrongdoing. With this powerful assertion, the Pringle court made it constitutionally permissible to infer criminality about a specific person solely because they are in a car where evidence has been discovered. Notice how this doesn't work in a tavern or at a Starbucks. The court then distinguished its second main case, United States versus DeRay. In that case, the defendant was sitting in the front passenger seat of a car, just like Pringle was, while the person in the back held the contraband. The person in the back happened to be an informant, and when the police showed up, he told the police that it was the driver who sold him the contraband. The police arrested everyone anyway, including the front seat passenger, Mr. DeRay, and the Supreme Court held that this was impermissible, specifically that the police lost probable cause for the passenger once the driver had been singled out. The court reasoned that any inference that everyone on the scene of a crime is party to it must disappear if the government informer singles out the guilty person. See how this holding gives special salience to the fact in Pringle that no one in the car took responsibility for the drugs. The Pringle court concludes that the drugs could fairly be attributable to anyone. As it writes, "We think it an entirely reasonable inference from these facts that any or all three of the occupants had knowledge of and exercised dominion and control over the cocaine." Pringle is an illuminating example of just how flexible probable cause is as a legal standard. As the court says, probable cause is not a neat set of rules, but rather it deals with probabilities and depends on the totality of the circumstances. And it is not a very high threshold of proof either. By definition, it means less than evidence which would justify condemnation, that is, guilt, and it is less than the common standard of a preponderance of the evidence, which means that people can be arrested even if it is more likely than not that they are innocent. And indeed, innocent people are legally arrested all the time. The last thing to notice about this case is what it teaches about how to spot salient legal issues. Lots of things happened that morning in Baltimore, but only one of them, Pringle's arrest, triggered a constitutional question. Police stopped the car for speeding. They observed money in the glove box. They asked the driver for consent to search the car. They found drugs. None of these police actions were unconstitutional under the circumstances, even though in other cases, with different facts, they might well have been. Here, it was only the police decision to arrest everybody that was constitutionally problematic. After Pringle was arrested, he was taken to jail where he confessed that the money and the drugs were his. That confession, in turn, was the basis for his conviction. But there was no allegation that the confession itself was improper. Pringle was read his Miranda rights, and he did not claim that he was coerced or threatened. Instead, the argument was that his confession was inadmissible because it was the result of that unconstitutional arrest. It was, as it were, tainted. In other words, Pringle only confessed because he was arrested. If the arrest had been unconstitutional, the confession would have been the product or the fruit of that unconstitutional police conduct, and it would have been inadmissible for that reason. We sometimes call this doctrine the fruit of the poisonous tree, which means that courts are supposed to exclude evidence that can be traced back to unconstitutional police action. But not in this case. Since Pringle's arrest was supported by probable cause, his eventual confession was admissible too.
Maryland versus Pringle is a short case, and it was unanimous. All 9 Supreme Court justices agreed that there was probable cause to arrest Joseph Pringle. The case teaches us how relatively low the standard for probable cause can be in practice, especially when it comes to cars and their passengers. And with over 20 million traffic stops every year, this short, unanimous case, well, it turns out to be very powerful. Joseph Pringle served 10 years in prison for protecting his friends and for taking full responsibility for that cocaine. You might be interested to know why he had it. Well, it was payday. He had just gotten paid from work. That $763 of cash in the glove box, those were his wages. But Pringle's boss didn't have enough cash to pay Pringle everything that he was owed. So he paid Pringle the rest in drugs to make up the difference. And when he confessed, Pringle told the police that he was going to try to get rid of the drugs for money, in essence, as a way of cashing his paycheck.